This is Kevin from Let Me Tech You. In this video, I'm going to be going over the management group structure according to the Azure CAF Enterprise Scale and how to go a couple levels deeper than what some may need. So basically, what we're going to do is, if we look at my screen here, we have a management group architecture that basically has a couple different levels. And you got your tenant root group, which is basically your default management group when you create your Azure tenant or account. But there's sometimes where people want to structure things a little differently. So this and my other videos I built around the Azure CAF enterprise scale. So we have our decommissioned group, which has basically all of our decommissioned subscriptions. And the reason around that is when you get rid of your subscriptions, you don't necessarily want to delete them. You add them to a decommissioned group, and that way, when you do want to use them again, it's best to reuse versus create new ones. Have my landing zones area. Basically, my landing zones would be anything as far as like the initial subscriptions that are built and where your resources lie. It's specifically like different things that you would have for different departments or whatever. That would essentially be how I have my production development. You could have HR, IT, etc., etc., depending on how you branch those out. And then I have my platform management group, which essentially has my connectivity, identity, and management subscriptions. And inside of there, now where I've gotten some questions around is how can we go a couple levels deeper? And Microsoft, they allow you to go well, I think it's your root level plus 6. So I think you get at least 7 levels you can go as far as for a management group. And so that can kind of deter things a little bit. And you kind of want to make that to where you're building your architecture of your management groups a lot more simplified, and and your policies can kind of flow a lot easier versus having a management group for every department or every particular group of things that you would want to group together. And so, how I would kind of break this out is say you have your landing zones, and your landing zones could be by country, and then you could have underneath those, you could have like a particular like environment. So it could be prod, non-prod, sandbox, or such and such. Or if you only were based in, like, say, a certain country, like, say, the United States, you could have a management group for each, state. And then underneath those, you could have one, say, for each region, or you could have one for each region, and then your subscriptions and stuff under there. So you got to kind of figure out how you want to control those things. But to do that using the Azure CAF Enterprise Scale Terraform module, what you would have to do is, if you see my other videos from this playlist, we basically created a hierarchy inside this settings.core.tf file. And inside of there, there's basically our structures defined by what we have here. So as you can see, I have my development, my production, but the parent management group ID is what kind of determines where that lives. So as you can see here, I got var.root ID, which my root ID is just LMTY, as you can see based off my LMTY here. And then dash landing zones. So landing zones. So LMTY dash landing zones. So this is the ID that gets used to determine where your management groups go. So what I want to do is I want to add some different development, different groups underneath development. So I'm going to take a copy of this here. And I'm going to paste that under there. I'm actually going to do 2 more levels. And so for this one, I'm going to call it development, let's say US. And then for the display name, I'm going to say development US. And the parent management group is going to be this one. So it's going to be LMTY and then development. And then underneath my development, I want to actually have one for each region in the US. So I'm going to have a development for US, Central US. So it's going to be development Central US. The display name is going to be development Central US. And then the parent management group is going to be development US or LMTY development US. So it'll build it underneath that one. And so now take that here and save it. We're going to do a Terraform plan. And that should show us having some couple management groups created. Now, when you're using the Terraform CAF Enterprise Scale, you'll see this sleep management group must be replaced. Basically, this actually just gives it a little bit of time to build the particular management groups, and so it builds this weight in there, so that way it doesn't try to go too fast and actually destroy your resources, or not destroy your resources, but not prevent them from being built because the resources that it's dependent on hasn't been built yet. So it's gonna just destroy that sleep timer and then it's gonna create it. So that's the one thing when doing the Terraform plans and applies. You're just making sure that this will always be something that gets built and destroyed when you're making changes here. So now if we pull up the back into our Terraform there, oh there we go, or our portal, we should see some more management groups drop in here. Let's just do a quick refresh. Okay, so we got our development US one. Let's see where we're at here. And we got the Central US one being built. Do another refresh. Okay, so there you go. So now we got a couple levels. We got our level here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now I would have Central US development subscriptions in there. And now let's say if we wanted under development US, we wanted a East US. Can essentially come back here and we can kind of just copy this one since it's already under the right management group ID. And we're going to call this East US East, and then same auto approve. Just go ahead and auto approve that since we already know what it's going to do there. And the ID and everything, so this should actually go pretty quick. So again, that's to destroy again, and then here's the East US being built. So now if we go back into the portal, we should see that actually being created. Let's do another refresh. So now we have our two management groups. So that's how that works there. So again, like I said, you can't have too many levels. Actually, if you Google that, if you go to Terraform or Azure Management Group max levels, something in that realm. Yeah, so a management group tree can support up to 6 levels of depth. This limit doesn't include the root level or the subscription level. So just some info on that particular stance there. So that's why you want to kind of keep your management group levels not too deep, for instance. And I'm sure that in there it might tell you why there could be some Azure limitations around naming schemes or policy replication, or just so also maybe just to help make sure people don't go too crazy on management group architectures and put themselves in a bigger hole than what they should be in. So again, that's it there. Just because I had some questions around how to do that. If you have any other questions around CAF enterprise scale setup, feel free to drop me a comment down below. Again, thanks for tuning in. Hope to see you next time.